The sightings map continues to grow. I have two stories to share with you today. The first spans 2 days in the remote Washington landscapes. The second story lands us in the outskirts of Georgia, where a terrifying encounter occurred. Before we jump into the stories, if you or someone you know has had an experience, share the tale. Comment below and add your story to the map. Now let's dive into this first story. September 18th and 19th, 2017. While trying to make a climb on Mount Adams, Washington, the first snow of the season hit the mountain. So I attempted to do a hike up the Crescent Glacier and back. While on my return back to the TH, just before dark, I had a very close tree knock. It was so loud that it vibrated through my pack and my entire body. It sounded like it was less than 50 feet away from me. When I turned around, I saw nothing. It was in the burned out section approximately half a mile up Trail 183 from Cold Spring Trailhead Camp. You could see a long way through the trees. I could not even replicate the knock. Later that night, Hole at Cold Spring had several encounters with silverish orbs that appeared to be floating about 4 feet off the ground. They appeared to be the size of a basketball. The next day/morning, while searching for climbers that were caught in the heavy snowstorm about half a mile from Cold Spring up 183, while stopping to take a break above a switchback, I was surrounded by a golden glow that radiated on the snow. No visible beam and no sun visible. It was a dark gray morning. After turning around at the last tree-lined ridge just before Morrison Creek, the same golden glow surrounded me once more in the snow, but much bigger this time. Visible maybe about 500 feet or so due to blowing snow and fog. No visible sun. Approximately 20 minutes later, I heard a strange whistling sound up the slope. I thought how odd it was. It was a bird calling out in weather like that at an elevation of roughly 7,000 feet. Just thought I'd share. I'm still shaking my head in disbelief with what I had witnessed. Let's head to our next story. This is my encounter. I lived out in the country. I mean, way out at the time. My closest neighbors were half a mile from us at the end of our driveway. My two neighbor boys and I used to ride our bikes all the time. We'd stop, pick, and eat the wild plums that grew beside the road. We noticed after a few days that we noticed after a few days that we heard something walking in the woods. When we would walk, it walked. When we stopped, it stopped. We'd walk, it walked. We didn't pay attention to it much. We thought it was squirrels or something. 2 weeks later, my neighbor and I rode our old country store for mom. Rode our bikes to the country store for mom. We rode to the top of my driveway and got off our bikes to walk down the hill. We heard it again. Something was walking with us again. Suddenly, his dogs ran out of the woods. We both looked up into where we heard the leaves crunching and saw a very tall black, dark brown thing take 2 steps and hid behind a tree. This thing had long legs and arms that hung below its knees. It stood behind the tree with its elbow sticking out. We froze with fear. We stood frozen for a good long time. I then noticed it was getting dark. I looked at my neighbor. He had tears streaming down his face. I said, "We have to go." So we got on our bikes and hauled it to my house. We told my parents we had seen something in the woods. My neighbor refused to ride home by himself, so my dad followed him in the car to his house. It took us 2 weeks to go check out the tree it hid behind. There was a burrow where its elbow was sticking out. It was at least 8 feet high. We didn't know what we saw because we had not heard of Bigfoot. I didn't go into the woods for years after that encounter. I'll never forget what I saw, and I'll go to my death saying this is a true story.